Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. What we're looking at here is the Atari 2600 game Adventure, but it's actually part of the Atari collection that's actually playing on my PS4. And while we're playing an Atari game on a Sony console, we're actually talking about a Nintendo game. Why? Well, I wanted to draw a parallel here with Adventure and The Legend of Zelda. And this is primarily because recently Legend of Zelda's kind of been in the news because a reviewer gave it a not hugely stellar review for the latest one on the Switch, the Breath of the Wild. And that's caused a big amount of outrage. And I don't really get that because I don't really get the Legend of Zelda success in general, or the appeal for everybody. So I'm going to continue my game of adventure here and deal with the dragons, but I want to keep focused on the Legend of Zelda subject. As you can see, playing the game here, it's very clear there's a similar look. And I remember when I saw The Legend of Zelda, the first game, on the NES, I thought, well, it's just adventure again, isn't it? You're running around, you're looking down, sort of top-down view, running around a kingdom, taking on monsters, picking up swords. Yeah, it's adventure with more modern graphics in that period. So I thought, okay, yeah, it's Adventure was the proto-Legend of Zelda, or Legend of Zelda was a more refined version of Adventure. And I'm not alone in this perspective. I'm aware that Legend of Zelda has a big following, and that is what this video is about. But I'm not the only one who thinks, yeah, it's kind of a parallel to the Adventure game, because I remember watching on RetroWare TV, they had the Video Game Years, which is a really good series, by the way, and they actually had the Game Chasers, a couple of well-known collectors of video games, huge YouTube following. When they were talking about Adventure in the old era, when they were talking about Atari games, they said, yeah, Adventure, which is basically the early proto Legend of Zelda game. So I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in this perspective then. And I've played quite a few of them. I've played more sort of in the more modern era. I played Twilight Princess. I've played Link to the Past on my 3DS. Link Between Worlds on my 3DS. And I want to get Skyward Sword. I understand the importance of the Legend of Zelda series, but I've just always thought, well, it's like Adventure. It's one of those games that's been around for a while. And Legend of Zelda, I have discovered over the years, has a huge fan base. I mean, it is full of very, very passionate fans who are absolutely in love with that series. And I'm having some problems with the Red Dragon right now, pardon me. Let's duck into the maze. Oh, actually, I wanted to, just as a quick side note about the Adventure maze here, I didn't play Adventure for about 20 years. I mean, when I got my first sort of kick into emulation, I loaded up an Atari 2600 emulator, stuck Adventure on, and I thought, I'm going to make my way through the maze, and it was like muscle memory. I immediately knew this path right here was the way to get to the maze. I hadn't thought about the maze in Adventure, as I say, for 2 decades. Suddenly fired it up, and immediately I knew how to get through here. I'm sure other players have experienced that phenomenon as well. It's like, oh yeah, I immediately know where I need to go without having actually played the game in decades. That was really fun for me. So to keep it with the Legend of Zelda, last week, Jim Sterling, who's a big YouTube video game review guy, he reviewed the latest Zelda game, Breath of the Wild. He said he liked it. He said it was good. It gets a 7 out of 10. It's not great. It's just good. Unfortunately, that's the lowest score Breath of the Wild has received yet, and it has caused the overall score to drop. And Zelda fans have lost their collective minds. They have threatened Jim with death threats, all kinds of nastiness. And it just made me think, wow, Legend of Zelda's fans are really they're hardcore about their game. Which is interesting because, I mean, I really love Adventure here, but I would never give anybody a death threat over it. And having played a few of the Zelda games, I don't get why people are so passionate about it. I mean, somebody please convince me. Let me know, what is it about the game that makes it such a treasure for so many people and worthy of giving Jim Sterling death threats? Because I just don't get that. All right, well, here's the chalice, so let's end the game here. Yeah, I mean, I know that Zelda has a big following. I attended the Video Games Live concerts where you can hear classic video games played with like an orchestra and stuff. Zelda is so big, it's actually got its own offshoot of that. You can attend a concert of just Legend of Zelda music. That's how big it is. And if you go to any event with fans dressing up and stuff, there's always tons of cosplayers for Zelda. Which is interesting, because this running around a kingdom avoiding monsters picking up stuff game was done by Adventure first, honestly. Anyway, if somebody can please explain to me what is the appeal of Legend of Zelda, because I don't get it. It's lost on me. And until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.